Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you again today. My name is Robin Hassler Thompson, and I'm with the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center. I'd like to say especially welcome, and I'm going to ask you all again and just put this back in the chat. You all are great. You are just telling us where you're from, what you do. Everybody, gosh, we've got a contingent from New Mexico here today. This is wonderful. Lots of folks from Florida. And all over, look up and down the East Coast, someone from Albany, New York, you're probably snowed in. Great. Glad you made it. And we've got some wonderful yeses and nos in terms of the Blue campaign. So I think you're going to have a really informative time today. Once more, I'm with the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center. Lisa, what's the prior slide here? Could you go back again? I wonder if we skipped one, but we're in the northern panhandle of Florida. My agency, the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center, is here to provide services to individuals, regardless of who they are, what they've done, if they've been sex trafficked or labor trafficked, adults or children, immigrants, non-immigrants. That's all we do is we provide assistance, direct aid to the survivors of human trafficking, as well as do lots of community education. One of the things to mention as well, real quickly, and Lisa, maybe go to the next slide. And let me go back because this is who we are. I also just wanted to share with you that you saw the slide before. We're a member of the Big Bend Coalition. Like many people, I hope around the country, you too are part of local coalitions where we do work together. And really, it's the only way we can do this work to assist trafficking survivors. And ours is the Big Bend Coalition Against Human Trafficking. That was that prior slide. Again, this is who STAC is. And I know that Graciela Marquina, who is STAC's community services advocate, is on today. Thank you for sharing STAC's website there, Graciela. Graciela does our care management for all the folks we assist. And we also assist people who are at risk of being trafficked. And that could be a whole other webinar. We could talk about all of our living experiences around that. We are in a kind of urban area, suburban area, but the counties that surround us are very rural. And it's also important to do all that outreach into rural areas, which is what we do. We also adapt a lot of training. I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit now. Okay, next slide, please. So one of the things we've done is we've developed a couple of toolkits that I really want to share with you, regardless of where you are in Florida or where you are in the nation or the world. We've had people from other countries actually on these. We have developed a series of helpful tools. It's so important for us to look upstream, to do prevention work, to understand that both sex and labor trafficking are present around us, regardless of where we are, regardless of the size of your city or county or state, and that we need to do our utmost to understand what it is in order to respond. So we've created a bunch of new things. This is something we created last year with help from our local Children's Services Council. And for those of you who are in Florida, the CSCs are around our state. Really encourage you to reach out to them to see if you too could receive funding or collaborate with them about this issue of human trafficking and how we can work with parents, caregivers, and youth to be both prevent and deal with this issue. Next slide, please. So we do toolkits like this, and there's a QR code, and I just put this up there on this slide. It will take you directly to our youth and caregiver toolkit that has, by the way, information about how youth can learn about trafficking, how they can speak to one another about it. We're especially proud of this as well because it was developed in coordination with a survivor advocate leader, Jamie Rosalind, who is one of our regular consultants on a lot of things. Jamie was terrific. She and Graciela and others actually interviewed youth and parents. So this toolkit and all the pieces in it really came from the field. This was not us thinking about what people needed or wanted. It was them telling us. We have lots of other information. There's our website again. And as you know, all of our services, or you might not know, but you should know that our services and support are free of charge. Okay, next slide, please. Another thing that we've done is we have created something called stackpro.org. It's another website and another training. This is really to help you regardless of the workplace that you're in. You need to know that human trafficking comes to work. How does it look in the restaurant industry and hotels? How does it look in offices or retail? How does it look in financial institutions? These are all things that you can learn if you go online. You can take this on demand certificate accredited program. It's free and it's available for you. And thank you, Rachel. I'm glad you, I love it. Amazing training. Thank you. Well, Graciela, thank you. Okay, next slide, please. And now it is my great pleasure to ask Diego to please maybe turn his video on and let me introduce Diego Luque, who is a terrific human being. I've gotten a chance to know Diego as he has helped us here locally in our area of North Florida, working with Vanya Aguilar and others of us. For those of you who know, our capital city has two major universities and a community college. We have a lot of higher ed in and around our area. And Diego, thank you so much for all the hours you've put in already, helping us to understand more of what you do and for helping us conceive and put this program forward. So thank you, Diego. But you should know that Diego is a campaign specialist at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Blue Campaign, and know that the Blue Campaign supports the prevention portfolio of that's what he does with the Blue Campaign, supporting it, helping us all understand what its elements are, and to assist and decrease victimization within vulnerable communities and deter criminal activity. And I want to say, I love that you have this as your bio, Diego, because the idea that human trafficking happens in a vacuum is what too many people out there who aren't on this webinar think, and they don't understand that the larger context of our world, where people are vulnerable and where traffickers target the vulnerable communities all around us, is really where we need to be looking and working together. So thank you. And by the way, I see some questions in here already. We will be answering your questions. Diego's going to speak for about, about an hour, and we are going to answer questions in the process of doing this if they're fundamental and really important. Otherwise, we are going to have a Q&A at the end, so know that, and we'll have a great discussion. And Diego, I just want to thank you again so much for being part of our work here, and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Robin. That was a great introduction. And really, thank you, STAC, the University of South Florida, Robin, for allowing us into your space today. As mentioned, my name is Diego Luque. I am a campaign specialist here with the Department of Homeland Security Blue Campaign. And also, side fact, I'm also a resident of Florida. I lived there pretty much my whole life. So Florida is very dear to my heart, and I lived in Fort Lauderdale. I've been in the trafficking sphere now for a little over 2 years, but with the federal government for about 4 years. I began as a fraud prevention specialist in a passport office with the Department of Consular Affairs. And now 2 years on this really amazing campaign, and really going through the inbox, through the chat. I mean, I see that a lot of people are not familiar with this, with the Blue Campaign. So this is very timely. And just once again, thank you so much for having us to be able to share about what we are doing to prevent human trafficking. And a lot of it has to do with education. Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right here. I guess I can't do two things at the same time. All right. Technical mishaps are out of the way. Okay, so yeah, we're in the field of education. We are a national public awareness campaign with a main mission of educating different industries, community organizations, the general public, really, our partners, law enforcement, on what is human trafficking, different ways to identify it, and how to respond to it. But one of the most important parts of this campaign is really just raising awareness that, hey, this is a crime that is happening. It's happening all over the United States. There's a case in every state now in the United States. And a lot of people still don't know what human trafficking is, have a lot of misconceptions on what it is, might confuse it for other crimes such as human smuggling. So really a big part of this campaign is to be able to just share information on what is human trafficking and the ways that general public people, that anybody really in their communities, in their place of employment, in their schools, can also do their part in raising awareness. And like, as I mentioned, it all starts with education. We work very closely, not only with DHS officials, but really all around government offices in order to create everything you're going to see today. None of this is done in a vacuum. We also have a very big network of lived experience experts that have, of course, survived human trafficking. This is our consultant network. Everything that we do in this campaign is done with insight, with input, with information from people that have actually been through these experiences. And of course, we have information from our stakeholders, our partners in private sector, organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Polaris Project, a variety of different coalitions. They all have a part in this campaign, and it is to be able to inform us on what is needed, what are the gaps in resources, who needs to hear this message the most. So we have identified variety of different vulnerable populations. One of them, of course, being young people. Another one being tribal nations. We're also working a lot with minority serving institutions. So that's going to be HBCUs and Hispanic serving institutions. We work a lot with places of worship and, of course, community organizations, different kind of entities, different, groups of people that are actually in the community and that are on an everyday basis interacting with the people around them. That is who we really want to reach, is these community members that are involved, that are in the communities, to be able to continue spreading awareness of this heinous crime. Partnerships are a very big part of this campaign. There is 7 of us here on the Blue campaign, and we're all based out of Washington, D.C. So it's a pretty big job to spread this kind of message nationally. So it's really important to have partnerships, stakeholders, to have organizations like STAC really, just also being a tip of the spear in Northern Florida and being able to get this message out, being able to educate their communities on what is human trafficking. So this is an all-around effort that takes all of us, all of our different industries, in order to raise awareness. And lastly, we are composed of 2 different elements. As it was mentioned, I am on the prevention side. So preventing human trafficking. And of course, we're working with our most vulnerable populations. And I'll kind of get into this whole vulnerable population. So before we do anything when it comes to resources, trainings, we have roundtable discussions where we bring a variety of different survivors, organizations, subject matter experts, and we talk to them about, hey, what are some things that are missing in order to prevent human trafficking? So in a lot of these roundtable discussions, it was discussed that resources are missing, information is missing. And through that, we continued working and we identified areas where we should be at. So that is organizations that are working with youth is going to be our main priority right now. We're really trying to work with these adults that are working with youth, because child trafficking is on the rise. It is increasing. The bringing in digital media, bringing in all these gaming platforms, all these anonymous chat groups. It's vital that we let people know, like, hey, this is also happening. Just because your child is at home, you think they're safe, but hey, they might be talking to people online that are not their friends. Just very recently, I saw this article of a man meeting a 12-year-old girl via gaming platforms, and he drove all the way to Texas from North Carolina, kidnapped her, brought her back to North Carolina, and kept her in a shed. That person was arrested recently, charged with trafficking, charged with kidnapping, a variety of different things. But really what we're trying to own in on with prevention is like, hey, kids are a very vulnerable group. And that is kind of one of my main audiences right now, is talking to like adults that are working with youth. I'm going to go over prevention and protection in more detail, but I do want to focus first on a little bit of how we're interacting, not only with the federal government, with our partners, but also how survivors are playing a key part in this campaign. So we are located in what's called the Center for Countering Human Trafficking. This is a center that pretty much has all 16 offices within the Department of Homeland Security, a center where we're able to coordinate, communicate, share resources, inform one another about what we are doing. I'm going to show you some examples of how we work together, but just so you get an idea of some of the different components that are here. You might see some familiar names, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. A lot of people don't know this, but who we really work with is Homeland Security Investigations. They have a very robust victim assistance program, and we work very closely with some of their staff, like victim assistance specialists, forensic interviewers. I'm going to show you an example of how we've worked together with them. But these are kind of our ears and how we communicate really with communities, because VASs are inside of the communities. They are stationed all throughout the United States and provide local resources on the ground. Another thing I kind of want to mention, since we might see some law enforcement heavy offices here, the Blue campaign is not law enforcement. We are not in investigations. We're not in prosecutions. We leave that to our friends at the DOJ. We are a program of education, raising awareness. We are, not affiliated with investigations or arrests or kind of things of that nature. We are solely education and being able to be that bridge between somebody that needs resources and kind of directing them to like, well, you should probably talk to this person. So kind of look at the Blue campaign also as a connector between the federal government. All right, so I want to really just first focus on like, hey, we're not doing these materials in a vacuum. These trainings are also not done in a vacuum. It takes a lot of training on our part. It takes a lot of conversations with subject matter experts, with people that are actually dealing with survivors and victims of human trafficking on the ground, that are assisting in investigations. And one of the main things that we come across in our presentations is like, oh, who can I talk to? I'm located in, Wyoming, or I'm located in Little Rock, Arkansas. So we always have this kind of component of the victim assistance specialist. We've actually connected a couple members of Florida State University, of STAC, with their local VASs. But we can't always have a VAS on these kind of presentations. It really depends on their time. So we did collaborate on this video series to kind of explain what the victim assistance program is. So I do want to share just a quick video on what the victim assistance program is and their role, and then I'll get into a little bit more of how we're working with them.
The role of a victim assistance specialist is to be a bridge builder between law enforcement agents and the NGO or the non-governmental organization community. Our agents are tasked with getting the perpetrators or traffickers through enforcement actions, and when they encounter a victim during this time, they would bring someone like me on board. So my job initially is just to assess what this person needs, whether it's a male or female, how are they doing, what are their medical needs, do they have a housing situation, are they allergic to certain foods, do I need to get them to a hospital?
Some of the organizations that we work with regularly are hotel industry, service industry. Many times, many cities have visitor centers. We go in and train their employees of different organizations and attend their conferences as well to make it known of our work and what we do.
So a forensic interviewing specialist is an individual who is utilized throughout the investigation, primarily focusing on the forensic interview, but also referencing any of those investigative concerns that might come up from the beginning, during, or end of the investigation. Interviewing specialists have a expertise in being able to establish rapport and ask a variety of questions to be able to further the investigation as a whole. It's very different from the context or the roles and duties and responsibilities of a victim assistance specialist, because the victim assistance specialist is really there to assist the victim and or their families. And that's also done throughout the investigative process, but not within the overall context of the investigation itself. Human trafficking victims are in a very specific space. Oftentimes, these traffickers and these exploiters have presented them initially with everything that they wanted, everything that they thought that they would need. And so with that comes a lot of connectedness, a lot of emotions, and ultimately a lot of solutions for where that potential victim was in that moment.
And then because of that, their loyalty to them, they don't want to betray someone that has loved them like they've never been loved before. So it's important for us as caregivers, as victim assistance specialists, as educators, as law enforcement, whatever our role or position is, to understand there's a dynamic, traumatic experience that this individual has gone through, and without professional assistance, mental health intervention, this individual might not be able to overcome it.
What we do is just make sure they are getting the services that they need and following up with all of those service providers. And at that point, as soon as they step out of their trafficking situations, we call them survivors.
It is so important that we understand law enforcement can't do this alone. The school system can't do this alone. Child Protective Services can't do this alone. Families, parents can't do it by themselves. So it's important that all of us are educated. We raise the level of awareness. Once we do that, we know what steps do I take since I've seen this suspicious activity.
I do the work I do because it's extremely meaningful. A lot of times when I've worked with these victims, on day one, they won't make eye contact with me. They don't trust me. They don't understand the legal system. And they were in a very dark place. Working with them is a process, and seeing them in a year or two as whole, wonderful human beings who receive justice, who now have a job, they have a partner, they have a life, and they're doing so well really makes me happy.
Every day when I start this job, I think I have another opportunity to help another victim find their voice and begin their healing. All of it kind of comes together and allows me to be a part of their journey, and allows me to remind them that they are heard, that they are cared about, and that they are safe.
So you just heard a little bit about the victim assistance program. Had the privilege to meet all of those victim assistance specialists and forensic interviewers. And we created this video with that purpose. There is some people that don't know that there is a victim assistance program whose main duty is to take care of the victim, is to find them the resources they need. They work with local organizations to be able to, refer victims of human trafficking to these organizations. So they are working in the community. As I mentioned, we could be connectors. If you do not know your local VAS or the VAS that's servicing your state or area, please feel free to reach out. VASs want to be connected to different local organizations, police departments, schools. So if you do not know your VAS yet, please get in contact with me and we could definitely have a conversation about that. All right.
Diego, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Would you like me to put your email in the chat?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you, Robin. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so please feel free to email me. And we have a series of these victim assistance programs. Like I mentioned, we can't always have them on a kind of a webinar, but we have been used to like traveling with them when we have like in-person presentations. They'll do, their part of the presentation on explaining victim assistance program and things like that. But these videos are very important because now everybody knows who the victim assistance specialists are. Another big collaboration that we've done, and one of these sectors is kind of new, but we've worked with USCIS on a TNU visa, kind of a pamphlet, mostly geared towards law enforcement, kind of gives them information on what information to provide on I-914B forms, the different things that they have to fill out when requesting a TNU visa protection for somebody that they're interacting with. And USCIS could definitely talk much better about this, which is why we're now piloting this program where we're doing presentations with USCIS. They just opened a kind of division that is solely presentation. So they're presenting on just what are TNU visas, what are your rights, who could apply to these kind of visas. And if you're unfamiliar, TNU visas are, kind of temporary and permanent kind of visas for victims of human trafficking. The T1 is for victims of human trafficking that are cooperating with law enforcement on an active investigation. And the U visas is for undocumented victims who might have gone through other crimes, not just trafficking. T's are specific for trafficking. So if you are also interested in having these kind of presentations for the people that you might work with or your organization, also please feel free to reach out, because we are able to kind of plan these TNU visa presentations. Depending on what part of the state, sometimes they're more prevalent that these kind of visas are needed. So that is another cool thing that we are able to do as being part of DHS, part of the CCHT, is this kind of cross collaboration with subject matter experts that know about immigration laws, that have a foothold with TNU visas, and explaining it more. All right. So I really want to get into survivor inclusion, because survivors play a really key part in our campaign. Our lived experience experts have supported us from everything to doc review to actually filming interviews with us that we show in different scenarios. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But some of the things that we're doing with survivors, I want to start off with this one that just happened 2 weeks ago. So from our network of lived experience experts, we planned a roundtable discussion with the Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary Mayorkas. One of his priorities is combating human trafficking and raising awareness of it. I believe he has 8 priorities when he signed to be Secretary of DHS, when he was admitted. And one of them is combating human trafficking. So he is all ears on what people are saying. So we actually just had our first roundtable discussion with current and former members of the U.S. Advisory Council that are survivors of human trafficking. We brought in several SMEs from academia, from nonprofits, from private sector, just to have an honest conversation. And what did Secretary Mayorkas do? He listened, and he took every sort of feedback into consideration. From this meeting, we're now planning a second roundtable discussion, because the survivors told him, hey, there's a lot of gaps. There is a lot of gaps when it comes to resources, when it comes to investigation. There's some gaps when it comes to getting victims resources. And he listened. So one cool part is our access to these lived experience experts and organizations, and putting them at the forefront to the people that have to hear their voice. And that is the secretary. And the gentleman next to the secretary, a little bald, his name is Director Morant. He is actually the director of the Center for Countering Human Trafficking. All right, so as I mentioned, their input is in every sort of material, video that we have on Blue Campaign. I wanted to share this one video. This is actually one of our newer videos that we have done. I'm not going to show the whole video, but I just want you to know that this is a real life scenario, something that happened to a lived experience expert on a college campus. I was actually here for the filming of this video you're about to see. We filmed it at Trinity Washington University, which is based here out of Washington, D.C. And we actually had two survivors just there providing insight, seeing how it's being filmed, revising scripts. If she said that something wasn't realistic, hey, guess what? We're filming again. Let's get it right. So input from them was vital to this project. And I do want to show you, I'm going to show like 5 minutes of it. It is on our website, free to access and download and show to your campuses. But just keep in mind that everything here is real and has happened. All right.
We were randomly paired as roommates. And it was fine. We got along, but we're total opposites. I mean, I couldn't wait to get to college and be on my own, but Lauren, she was homesick and stressed and super worried about money all the time. She had a scholarship, but I guess it didn't cover everything because she watched every penny. Like, one of the first nights here, a bunch of us went out to dinner, just someplace cheap. I told her it was a great chance to make some new friends, but she stayed back and ate by herself. I tried to get her out of her shell. Meet new people. But then classes started and I had lacrosse.
You guys, have a great first time.
And she started picking up shifts at a restaurant to make ends meet, and we just didn't spend much time together outside of our dorm room. Then she met Mark.
Oh,
So sorry.
I'm sorry.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
Lauren? Wow, what a beautiful name.
thanks.
He grew up here, not too far from campus, I guess. He's an entrepreneur launching some startup. I don't
I
know.
hope you enjoy your meal.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
She seemed super happy at first. For months, they were together all the time.
Are you trying? Wait, hold on, I want to record you.
Nah, baby. Not yet.
Oh, come on, let me record.
She slept at his place a lot. I only met him briefly once or twice, but she said he was really smart and successful, that his company was about to take off. From everything she told me, I think he made her feel cared for, you know? Maybe because he's older. She also said she felt good because he really listened to her, treated her like an adult.
You know how much I love being with you. It's just been hard juggling classes and us. And now this class just added these really expensive textbooks and you have to buy hard copies. There's nothing online.
Babe, what can I do to help?
Can I like borrow $200 from you? Please? I can pay you back a little at a time.
Babe, you know I'd do anything for you, but I don't have it. All my money's tied up in getting the business going right now.
Right. Of course. It's just, I don't know how I'm going to pay for these books that I need. My parents can't help me, and then the restaurant's been cutting back my hours. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Drop out of school?
Use your credit card.
I don't have one, and I don't think I qualify.
I bet you would. Come here, bring your laptop. I got you, babe. Give me your info and we'll apply online. It's super easy. Here, what's your social security number?
136.
After a while, though, the stressed out Lauren started to reappear. I came home one night and she was crying about something. Wouldn't say what. And then she asked if I could lend her $50 and she'd pay me back in a couple weeks. I felt bad for her, but didn't want to ask a lot of questions.
I don't understand why you're so upset. So you borrowed $50 from your roommate. What's the big deal?
The big deal is that we maxed out my credit card between my school expenses and what we needed for the startup. And I had to borrow money from my roommate just to make the minimum payment. I'm already panicked about what I'm going to do next month. And then I get a bill in the mail about a second credit card that's maxed out that you opened in my name.
Babe, I'm so sorry for not telling you. Honestly, I didn't think you'd make such a big deal about it. It's a short-term thing. I couldn't access the business credit line at the bank because we've got this big investor coming on board.
Sorry, I had to stop it. It is a longer video, but you kind of get the point of where this is going. It shows the scenario where, you know, the victim here starts getting exploited via digital platforms such as Fansly, OnlyFans, and being forced to kind of go on webcam to pay back these debts, to keep supporting their vision together. So we use these kind of videos to really explain a couple things. A, when we go over the type of traffickers there are, hey, this is a Romeo trafficker. This is some sort of fraud. This is that false promise of love that we see in human trafficking cases. We also make it a point that, hey, human trafficking is a gradual process. This does a very good job of explaining what is grooming, you know, kind of getting to know somebody, showering them with gifts, what the grooming process may be. This does a good job of showing how a trafficker doesn't just, you know, there's always that misconception that human trafficking is like the big white van and somebody gets kidnapped, you never see them again. And hey, no, human trafficking could actually be that gradual process, that grooming. It could be somebody that you think you love. It's not just a complete stranger who's the trafficker. I know in one of the Polaris reports, they noticed an increase in the amount of victims that got trafficked by a loved one, spouse, a family member. Those numbers are going up. So it's vital that we show them like, hey, human trafficking looks kind of different than what you might think it is. I know I'm seeing in the chat box, I'm sorry, but it is an 11-minute video and, you know, kind of limited time here, but what do you think, Robin?
Well, it looks like we, I don't know what to say. People want to see it. It's totally sucked us all in.
All right, let's do it. Okay.
All right, let's go for it. Okay.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure we're good on time, but let's do it. All right.
And it's just better not having that on the books. But as soon as we get his funds, I'll pay off both your cards. Look, you said you wanted to help me with the business somehow. I didn't tell you about the card because it's just a temporary thing, and I knew you'd worry. It's all good though. Trust me. I love you.
A week or so went by, and she just seemed to be even more distant than usual.
Mark, please, I'm begging you. You have got to make payments on those credit cards. They're due next week.
Babe, I'm sorry I can't right now, but I will next month. You know that with the startup...
What am I supposed to do now?
I don't know. Maybe you could sell photos. You're hot enough. Oh, come on. You know what I mean? Like the photos you send me.
I take those photos for you, not for everyone to see on the internet.
Whatever. I mean, it's really just modeling. No big deal. I know lots of people who do it. Plus, you're gorgeous. You'd make bank and you know it. Honestly, you'd never have to worry about money again. That's all I want for you, babe. I love you. Hey, I know that selling photos and making sexy videos and stuff isn't your thing, but it's really no different than what other people put on social media, right? A few pics and videos a day and all your money problems will be solved.
And then she gradually changed. Her stress seemed to go away. She paid me back the money she borrowed. But she somehow seemed sad and detached. Like worn down, kind of empty. I can't explain it. And then one night we had a game canceled and I got home early.
You're just so sweet to me. All the videos and photos you're buying. I don't know how I could ever thank you enough. I mean, maybe we could meet for something more in person. A private modeling session. The cost is $200, and I guarantee you it'll make you very happy.
What's going on?
Nothing. Lauren was just making a joke video for me.
Really?
Yeah, really, Alana. Didn't know you were this nosy. So, how was lacrosse?
Canceled. I'm going downstairs to grab some food. You want to come with? Catch up?
No, we have plans. Thanks, though.
Okay. Well, I'll be back in a bit.
Okay. Bye, Alana.
She knows something's going on.
She knows nothing. And besides, what is going on? You're just making some money to support our business and pay for school, right?
Yeah, but not like this. I don't really want to do this anymore.
Aw, babe, don't mess things up for yourself. You're doing so great. You're so incredibly beautiful. And all your money problems are almost gone.
I don't like this. I don't want to do this anymore.
You don't like it? How do you think you'd like it if your professors or the people in your school saw your photos? Or your parents? Mom and dad might not ever look at you the same way if they saw your videos. That would be a real shame. All that trust in their perfect little girl, gone. What we should do is pack some of your clothes, go to my place, and keep this going. Having a perfectly good day, and you talk to one person for 1 minute, and suddenly act like a victim, like I put a gun to your head or something. I'm helping you, helping us, trying to take us to where we want to be, and all you want to do is complain! Hand me that.
When I got back that night after dinner, they were gone. Over to Mark's, I guess. I don't know, the whole thing just felt really creepy to me. And Lauren, she just doesn't seem like herself, you know? I mean, I know she can take care of herself, but something's not right about their relationship and the way she's changing.
Yeah, I get it. Something's definitely off. Does Lauren seem open to talking about it?
Sometimes, but only when Mark's not around.
I'm glad you told me, Alana. You definitely did the right thing. I'll take care of it from here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Officer Monroe, how can I help you?
Hi, Officer Monroe. This is Olivia Thompson. I'm a RA in South Hall. I want to report some things going on with one of the students in my dorm. I just spoke to her roommate and she thinks a boyfriend is coercing her to do sexual things. I thought I should call and fill you in on what I know.
Okay.
Well, she said it started a couple months ago when the roommate got a boyfriend that's older.
So that is the full video. That is something that we are showing and working with when we're talking to different students. Yes, Robin.
Yeah, just want to also mention that thanks to Jocelyn, she mentioned that because of how realistic it is, it would be really good if we had a trigger warning before showing that. And maybe when you do that going in the future, and I'm interrupting to say that to you because I know how you are always receptive. But yeah, that's something that we can do on these videos. And I know you'll want to do that too, maybe online, and maybe it's there. And lots of folks are asking for the link too. So I know we're gonna have that as well in the chat. So thank you for that. That was very powerful. And I just want to say really quickly, it's important for people to see that, because that's like, that's just one person trafficking another person, arguably. Maybe they're part of an organized crime thing, but we don't know. But still, a lot of folks lose sight of that.
No, definitely. We recently just shared this video actually at Broward College. They have a student-led kind of public awareness group on their campus. Well received. And of course, with campus law enforcement, we work very closely with them. We have materials directly for campus law enforcement. And this is just one way that they could also see how human trafficking can be happening on a college campus. And yes, I would definitely drop the link as soon as I'm done talking, because my connection sometimes gets a little wonky. But yes, I will show that link. All right, and kind of another little example I wanted to bring up with survivor inclusion is our trainings. We have a variety of different online trainings. The ones that you're seeing right now is our Blue Lightning Initiative training. So a part of the Blue campaign is solely dedicated to aviation and different transportation hubs. And for the aviation, the Blue Lightning Initiative trainings are actually mandated by the FAA for flight attendants and anybody that's working really on a plane. They're mandated to take this training if they do partner with the Blue Lightning Initiative. There's over right now 150 partners. I know Fort Lauderdale Airport is a huge partner. Every time I fly back home, I see posters everywhere in the men and women's bathrooms, the PSAs, the audio PSAs. Those are all part of Blue Campaign. And this is one training that we actually got together with different lived experience experts that were trafficked in, that were using some sort of transportation, whether it was a plane or a train. This one's directly for aviation. And they actually told us what were some indicators that were actually missed in their cases. And we, different flight attendants, the people that work at counters, we work with them on these different kind of trainings so they can know what are some of the unique indicators that are, prevalent in an airport setting. And this is one of those trainings that, once again, heavily informed by actual survivors that use these kind of transportation settings. Very important in the transportation industry. And a lot of our different trainings, they have, their indicators are the ones that are on those videos. All right, so I want to kind of touch on like the two main parts of our campaign. One of them is based on protection. So that is protecting victims of human trafficking. Right now, our motto, our mission right now is using a victim-centered approach, is putting the victim's needs, putting the healing process of a victim is very important, and it should be the utmost important next to actually investigating. But putting the victim first is kind of what we are going for. So under protection, we are working with law enforcement on using this trauma-informed approach, all starting with a victim-centered approach. Because if you don't follow a victim-centered approach, that you're not going to understand trauma. People are not going to understand the kind of emotional and psychological damage that goes on with victims. I'll get a little bit into that. And of course, outcome number 2 in protection is working with different industries, such as the hotel industries, convenience retail industries, anybody that has maybe came into contact with a victim. We put them under protection because the victim has already been victimized. They might be, staying at that hotel. So we work with different, hotel employees and staff so they can know how to recognize specific indicators within their setting, but also being able to understand that trauma involved with human trafficking victims, such as not identifying themselves as victims, not talking to people and not making eye contact. So some of those different indicators. And under prevention, education. This is trying to educate as many people as possible in order to decrease victimization. Prevention is working with, some of our most vulnerable populations. That's why we're really trying to work with youth and adults that work with youth, so we can prevent this crime from actually happening to them. A little bit about a victim-centered approach is, placing a victim's priorities, their needs, their interests at the center of law enforcement's work with the individual. We, go into depth about their training. We have a person that's specifically designated to talk to law enforcement. My colleague, Maria Lazinski, she is our chief of staff here. She works directly with state, local, federal, tribal, and campus law enforcement on this victim-centered approach based on the victim's needs. And some of the things that we kind of go over are, hey, trafficking victims may fear law enforcement. There might not be trust there yet. We've heard stories that some people dress up as police officers and be buyers. Once you see a police officer buying, some sort of commercial sex act and you're being trafficked as the victim, you're not going to have trust in law enforcement. You don't know who might be on the trafficker side. So fear of law enforcement, it's key that people know that, hey, there's going to be some fear when it comes to law enforcement. Not identifying themselves as victims, as we saw in that campus video, didn't identify as a victim. She thought that was her partner and it's kind of temporary. So it's key to kind of go over these things of what a victim might be going through. And of course, as I mentioned, victim-centered approach and trauma-informed principles go together. If somebody is not following that victim-centered approach, you're probably not going to understand the effects of trauma in a survivor of human trafficking, victim of human trafficking. So we do also go over some of those trauma-informed principles and some things that trauma might bring with a victim, So like impaired memory, lack of emotions, maybe laughing or joking inappropriately. So just different effects that trauma might have on a person. It is key that we're able to, inform people about these kind of things that go alongside victims of human trafficking. On the prevention side, it's going to be more high level. So this is, talking to the general public, people that might not know about human trafficking, that, might confuse it, that might be believing all the myths that are out there, all the conspiracy theories about human trafficking. So under prevention, we are going over, hey, this is human trafficking. Under federal law, human trafficking is defined as the use of force, fraud, or coercion to either obtain labor or a commercial sex act. And of course, we let people know that also under federal law, if a victim is under the age of 18 years old, they are automatically considered a victim of human trafficking. There is no such thing as an under 18-year-old prostitute. They are automatically victims of human trafficking. Force, fraud, or coercion are not needed under federal law. So we kind of go over some of the different aspects also of what human trafficking is. We hone in on not only sex trafficking, but also letting people know that, hey, labor trafficking is also a thing. And depending where you are in the country, it could be more prevalent. And one thing to show with labor trafficking is that it's harder to spot. You could be seeing it and you just wouldn't think twice about that house being constructed, or the farm workers, getting oranges, or one of the important, not important, but one of the cases that came out of Florida, northern Florida, was Operation Blooming Onion, that those people picking onions might be there under some sort of forced labor. So it's very important that we show the different faces of human trafficking in these kind of general public awareness presentations. Another big part is battling misconceptions. These are some of the most damaging things to a public awareness campaign, is some of the flat out lies that are out there about human trafficking. And we've identified that one of the main misconceptions is confusing these two crimes. I've heard both of these crimes being wrongfully used on the news, in articles, in conversations with different people. And it's very important that we're able to differentiate between what is human smuggling and what is human trafficking. Yes, both of them are illegal crimes, but they are completely different. One is going to be considered a crime against the border. Another, a crime against a person that is based off exploitation. There is no border crossing required when it comes to human trafficking. And of course, it's involuntary. No one is signing up to be trafficked. While in smuggling, there might have been some sort of deal. In the southern border, we call them coyotes. Those are smugglers that have charged the person getting smuggled a lot of money. Sometimes I heard that they charge $10,000, $15,000, pretty much the last dollar for people getting smuggled into the country. So it is voluntary. Smuggling considered crime against the border because it requires a border crossing. You're illegally crossing a border to another country. And of course, it is transportation based. A person could be getting trafficked right in their community. Something horrible. When I first started working with the Blue Campaign, I learned about familial trafficking. I never thought that would be possible. I couldn't wrap my head around being born into a human trafficking situation. That person didn't have any say in their situation, couldn't get out of it, and they didn't have to leave their home. So it's important that we're able to differentiate between both of these crimes, and also let them know that, hey, a person that got smuggled into the country can turn into a victim of human trafficking. Something we also go over is debt bondage, is the smuggler then charging some sort of fee or extra tax that the person they smuggled has to now pay off by working for them. So once you are forcing somebody into labor or some sort of commercial sex act, after you've smuggled them and there's some sort of force, fraud, or coercion, now that is a victim of human trafficking. So that becomes a whole different scenario. So it's definitely important to be able to let people know those differences and when they could kind of turn into one another. Another big part of our campaign is being able to go over indicators and how human trafficking kind of recruitment works, how traffickers are reaching their victims. And of course, I work a lot with youth and, youth caregivers and people that just work with youth. And it's important for us to show these kind of scenarios like, hey, people are sliding into kids' DMs with crazy offers. And kids are sometimes too young to know that, hey, this doesn't sound, this sounds good. Like, it's some money. This person wants me to work for them. So you just never know how a young person might take these kind of DMs. But this is an actual DM that we received. This is a part that I kind of want to get you guys involved. I don't want to say them, but what are some red flags in this DM that we have here? We use these kind of examples in our trainings when we're going over indicators because there are a couple red flags here. Please feel free to type it in the chat. What are some red flags just right off the bat here? Yep, location. Model manager, yeah. No, definitely. Only working 1 to 3 hours, right? I mean, hey, all these luxury items, a lot of money, working 1 to 3 hours a day. Hey, where are we going to find that? You know, just right off the bat, us knowing about careers and things like that, we know that this looks wrong on a lot of different levels, but a young person might not. They might think this is somebody that's really interested in them. So it's key that we're able to identify different ways that traffickers are working. And of course, it's going to be a lot right now, digital, especially with the start of the pandemic in 2020, traffickers were still trying to make money. So where did they go? They went online. They went into the different social medias, gaming sites, anonymous chat groups, and different gaming profiles. And yeah, so this is one of those examples. A lot of the red flags are definitely in the chat box. So thank you for participating in that. Promise of a job, hard to break into. Job perks don't match the level of effort. No work experience required. Of course, company in a foreign country. For us, sounds too good to be true. But for somebody younger that might have not experienced a message like this or even experienced what work or careers are like, this might be something that they respond to. Another big part of our prevention kind of campaign, and I actually saw in the chat box that LifeLink, a couple members of LifeLink based out of New Mexico are here. Great example. We actually ran a social media campaign with them, directing people back to their hotline and to the different resources that they are offering. So we do these digital media campaigns in order to maximize our reach with prevention messaging. So these are just some of the high level kind of statistics from FY21, but a big part of deterring criminal activity is being able to target social media, is being able to target websites that people might be going into to buy sex. So if they are, you know, what was that big one? Backpage. So similar to Backpage, we're running ads on these kind of similar organizations with messaging like, hey, that person that you're trying to buy sex from, they could be a victim of human trafficking. If you're involved, you are a perpetrator now. So we have these like kind of trainings we refer back people to. We have one called our general public indicators training that we advertise. We also have a consequences class that we also, you know, direct people back once they see our different ads. These are just some of the examples. We have an Instagram, a Facebook example, and a story kind of example. But we do run tailored campaigns, as I mentioned, with LifeLink and the New Mexico Dream Center. We've ran targeted campaigns with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and a variety of different organizations with 2-month, 1-month campaign. We're also right now actively looking for organizations with a direct nexus to Native American communities that are actually you know, in those communities that are servicing people within tribal nations. We do have very tailored kind of advertisement campaigns. So if you are somebody that is working with tribal nations, please also feel free to email us. But yeah, big example here of how we are doing our part in raising awareness and letting people know just different messaging resources is done a lot through these digital advertisements. All right. So now that you kind of got a bigger, better description of what prevention and protection are, I kind of just want to go over some of our resources, and then we're going to wrap it up for some Q&A. So we have a variety of different public awareness resources. Everything is going to be available for free to order, free to download, free shipping. And yeah, these are some examples, posters. We have a very similar guidebook, you know, Stacks, How to Talk to Youth About Human Trafficking. Guidebook is amazing. You know, we kind of have some reinforcements here on some of those things. want to hone in on some of our very specific kind of materials. We do have tailored content, as I was mentioning with digital media. Our print materials are also specific to, you know, different audiences. This is our child exploitation series. That, hey, that kind of message that you're getting, you could say no to that. You don't have to get more information on what they are trying to tell you, or you don't have to accept their just terrible offer that might sound good at that moment. But just trying to give back children their voice, like, hey, you could say no to these kind of things. And this kind of messaging is needed when kids see these kind of DMs that, hey, you have the power to say no. And so these kind of just shows a little bit about what exploitation can look like, as well as, of course, our website on all things child exploitation. This is available in Spanish and English. We actually have materials in like 31 different languages now. So we could translate materials also depending on need. Our toolkits and guides, we have toolkits for a variety of different audiences. We have one directly for campus law enforcement and public safety officials, and the content in them is going to vary by who the audience is for. Of course, with campus law enforcement, we're really focusing on that victim-centered approach, what are trauma-informed principles, how to interact with a potential victim, kind of goes into detail about that. So for campus law enforcement, of course, we're going to have indicators of what human trafficking might look like on a college campus. And it goes over, you know, what is human trafficking, federal law, things like that. That is our human trafficking awareness guide for convenience retail employees. We also have one for, we work closely with casinos as well. So that is in the making. And my bread and butter, the one I usually work with, is going to be that how to talk to youth about human trafficking, you know, guide for youth caretakers and individuals working with youth. Like, as I mentioned, Stack also has a great guidebook. And to kind of, accompany these guidebooks, we also have virtual trainings on them. So for example, this is our how to talk to youth about human trafficking, with some of the things that are included in them, do's and don'ts of how to talk to them, to talk to a youth about it. So staying away from like saying the word human trafficking and rather focusing on exploitation and what a person might feel and like taken advantage of, what they are going to feel if they are getting taken advantage of, how it's going to look if they're getting taken advantage of. That is just one example. There are a variety of different things in this toolkit. If you haven't checked it out, you know, it's on our website, and there's also a 2-part training to accompany this, also all free to access. Some of our trainings and videos, as I mentioned, we do have a public indicator challenge on our website. That's for the general public to spot different indicators based on scenarios that they're going to see different videos. We have a college awareness video, as you just watched, that we're actively working with as well. A variety of different, you know, PSA videos, animated videos. I actually want to show you guys one that I've been working on. This was actually my first project with the Blue campaign, was creating this youth animated series that follows the life of Mia. Mia is a young 15-year-old that gets, you know, she falls victim to a Romeo trafficker via social media, via messages. And this shows her life as she's progressing through it, through the lens of the different people that are in her life. So it starts out with her situation. I'm going to show the first video of just showing how she got into this position. And then the 3 other videos follow who is interacting with her. So one of them is the parent, the other one is the teacher, and last video is what are her friends seeing and how are her friends supporting her. I'm going to show this video. It's very quick. So this is the first part of this Mia series.
place is amazing. Where are we meeting Gary?
Turns out he's not here.
Oh.
He had to cancel at the last minute. But wants you to meet someone he works with, and he'll tell you more.
You're not staying with me? I don't think...
Baby, I have to run a quick errand down the street, and we're already late. Don't want to make a bad first impression, right? I know you're mature enough to handle it. I'll meet you right back here when you're done. Just let yourself in, and he'll explain. You trust me, right?
If someone is making you do something you don't feel comfortable with, you can get help. Contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Causing someone under the age of 18 to engage in a commercial sex act, regardless of using force, fraud, or coercion, is human trafficking under U.S. law.
Hey, Diego, as you're switching back now, I want to pop in and let you know, if I haven't told you this, but we did 2 of the 4 videos when we did an online training with Gadsden County Public Schools, which is a rural county just west of us here. And people loved it. And we used the first one, that one you just showed, and the one about how youth who know somebody, their peers, might be trafficked, and how they could help youth. So it's nice that they're divided into 4, and that one was really helpful. And then afterwards, they asked for all of them. So we sent all of those to the school system there so that they could show it to the teachers and share it with parents.
That's great to hear.
So thank you.
No. Thank you for sharing that. This definitely, going animated was kind of new to us. And, at the time it was kind of a risk. Doing animated videos, we didn't know how they were going to be perceived, but yes, they are doing, people are understanding them sometimes a little easier than our toolkits by watching videos and seeing it play out, seeing how it could play out. So
that's our world now.
yeah, it is. But okay, wrapping up here, I also wanted to show some of our special initiatives. I've noticed that the Blue campaign is very quick to react to kind of disasters that are going on. Here are 2 examples. One is in Ukrainian, the other one, I don't want to mess with this language, but it's what they heard, one of the main dialects spoken in Afghanistan. So after the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan and, all the different refugees that came here, we knew that there was going to be a need for this kind of messaging on human trafficking prevention, awareness, that we needed to translate in different dialects that are spoken in Afghanistan, the main languages that are now here. So we put this throughout different bases that were housing refugees from Afghanistan, different sort of centers, and we're able to send this out to pretty much all the bases and groups that are dealing with Afghans. And this was all part of our Operation Allies Welcome that we had here at DHS. And of course, after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we immediately also started translating documents into Ukrainian. Once again, there was going to be a need as we had an influx of refugees from Ukraine coming in. So we are quick to act when we do see that need that is there. All right. And I have a lot of links to share with you guys. So this is one of those links. This is where you can actually go and see the different resources we have. We have a tab also to request materials in bulk. I have a lot of links to put in. So this will be one of the ones I do put in. And yeah, really wrapping up now. We're doing this year round. We're doing webinars. We want to be at your conferences. We want to be able to speak to your school districts, your schools. If you know law enforcement, campus law enforcement, we want to talk to everybody. We want to talk to y'all. This message is important. This information is important. I saw that a lot of people don't know about the Blue campaign. So one thing you got to know is that we are here. We are here for the public. We are here for our partners, for our stakeholders, to support our law enforcement. And the best way that we're going to do is through that education. So yeah, these kind of trainings. And yes, so most of our trainings are going to be like HT 101. So basic, what is human trafficking, how to support, reporting numbers, both DHS and the National Human Trafficking Hotline. We also have the NCMEC hotline, because NCMEC also just released this program where they could scrub photos of underage people. That, unwanted photos that are on the web of them, they could scrub them now from the internet. And that program is recently new. I think it's 3 weeks old now. So I know that they've been having some presentations on that NCMEC program. So yeah, trying to tell people that there are these resources out there and tools. And lastly, contact us. That is our website. My email is already in the inbox, so you could just go through me directly. No need to go through our general inbox. And we are very active on social media, posting daily pretty much at DHS Blue Campaign, especially coming, well, I'm already looking at Human Trafficking Prevention Month 2024. Those plans, they take months to plan just so we can make sure that we have the best kind of programs. But I do have a very heavy emphasis on work a lot on social media when it comes to Human Trafficking Prevention Month. So very active. You could find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at DHS Blue Campaign. Yeah, and that is that. I'm sorry, I was reading a question, but hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And I am putting my email in, and this is, you're getting lots of claps and love and everything. So what a great way to end a program. I've never seen all this happen on one of these. Let me share with you too. My email is robin@surviveandthriveadvocacy .org, and I'm trying to type it and talk and I can't. But let's start off with some questions too. We have lots and lots of great information. Many great things that people are saying about this, and I think it was wonderful too to ask who knew about this and just get a sense that you shared a lot of new stuff with people that had never heard of this. So so that's terrific. Now, if somebody wants to do more, one of the earlier questions was work on campus. So can you talk a little bit more about what you do in terms of if somebody wanted to do more work in their local communities on college campuses, I think, but also maybe high school. I mean, we should do high school, middle school. Really, all of our school systems need more.
No, definitely. So kind of working on campuses varies. One successful thing that we are doing with campuses is identifying different groups that are student-led, that are already raising awareness on their college campuses, that have an understanding of how communications get out, that have contacts in their local student government association, that might be part of Greek life. So working already with established groups that have this as like a cause, that are trying to do more on their campus, we work with them on presentations. We also have partnerships with different universities and groups. Very recently, I was actually working with George Mason University. And this is a good example of how different ways we're working with them. So it all started as a career fair with their human trafficking awareness group. We had one of our program manager talk about how she got into human trafficking work. From there, it got to, well, how can we work together to bring this information on campus? Not just what you guys do as a career, but like actually how can people also get involved? So we began co-branding materials for their campus. They're like, people are gonna see a DHS poster and they're gonna be like, oh, it's not for me. But then they're gonna see a poster co-branded with George Mason University and DHS, and hey, that's gonna turn an eye. It's gonna be like, oh, that's something for my university. So through identifying where public awareness materials are needed. And also another big part of campus is their access to campus law enforcement, to being able to have these conversations with their RAs, their campus law enforcement, their other security personnel. We also are very involved in trying to reach those people that, hey, could actually help a person out of their situation using law enforcement and using different counseling services. So kind of a lot, but we are, depending on the university, depending on the group, we are working with them in different manners. And of course, bringing them to those roundtable discussions. We work with groups like civic engagement, different organizations and different campuses. Every campus has like their community engagement series or their civic engagement kind of speaker series or department. So we work a lot with these kind of departments within schools, criminal justice, school faculty, things like that. So a variety of different ways, but if your campus is trying to, start a group on your campus, we could definitely provide information. And we have an entire toolkit dedicated to college students and really high school students too. It's called our Student Advocate Toolkit. And that gives information on how people could start a group on campus, start events, and the different ways that they could engage their campus. It's called our Student Advocate Toolkit. And Robin, we're running out. I have a lot of links to share.
Maybe. I know you do. And let me, as you do I know you have to research to get that link to put it in from earlier. And how about if I talk a little bit about one thing while you do that?
Yeah.
So you don't have to talk and do research. But what I want to react to in the chat is somebody said a lot of high school girls are selling their pictures, and yeah, that happens. And also just last week, and I want to share this because of what you said too about the misinformation, the myths and misinformation that are out there about trafficking. You know, they can really do a lot of harm, and we have to be careful. So recently there was a documentary called Sextortion, the Hidden Pandemic, and it got a lot of, it's getting a lot of play, a lot of buzz, but also NPR just did a story talking about how there's a lot of misinformation about it. And we actually put this on our website there. You know, it's always good to raise the issue of something that's bad, and sextortion clearly is bad. But it's also important to make sure that when we share anything, whether it is a documentary or a something on TikTok, to just make sure you're not resharing things that have problems in them, right? So just, I encourage everybody, if you've heard of this film, make sure you see the NPR piece on it, and then be thoughtful about your use of it. Okay, just be careful. I mean, it's really important for us. For example, in the whole thing, they don't talk about just what you talked about, which is grooming and this happening with people that you know. It was that sort of, abduction type, it was just different, stranger danger as opposed to somebody, Anyway, okay, it looks like you posted the documentary. No, that was that one. Tell us what you posted. Tell us what you posted.
Yep, I just posted the link to our different guidebooks. Once you click on one of them, it'll take you to a PDF copy of it. That's why I just kind of put that link, so I don't have to put a whole PDF. Now, the one I'm sending is our videos. This is where you'll find the campus video and the different youth. Okay, so this is Mia's story. I'm gonna break it up so people. Mia's story. That's the last video I showed. That's the animated series. You could find that here. And let me post the campus video as well, that I saw that somebody wanted to find it.
Okay, and while you're doing that, somebody's asking, do you primarily focus on sex trafficking? And this is a good question too, because, we do need to see videos on labor trafficking. We do have to have that awareness. We also have to talk about how people are both sex and labor trafficked at the same time. There was a survivor speaking at a recent webinar talking about how she was forced in a strip club to commit commercial sex acts, but she also was forced to help run the business, so that when she got out of the trafficking situation, part of her resilience was to be able to know, I know how to run a business. I know how to do the books. I know how to do these things. And it was part of her healing. But if it gets completely ignored, and there's only a focus on one or the other, then we're not doing what somebody who has been trafficked needs, right?
No, definitely. So we are, part of our, when we're talking to general public is going to be differentiating sex trafficking, labor trafficking, because yes, sex trafficking is what's dominating airwaves. It's what's dominating conversations, and labor trafficking is kind of, hey, it's still happening. And those victims need voices too. And sometimes those victims of labor trafficking, we've seen a lot that they don't speak English really. We've seen a lot of different victims that don't think they are victims. They're scared to try to get help. So it's very important that we give, especially, all victims of human trafficking a voice. So one thing I didn't show today that we do use, and I didn't show it for a couple reasons, but when we have these kind of trainings, we have a series of conversations with survivors of human trafficking. Unfortunately, we can't record them because it's very private stories. And yeah. But when we do these trainings, we have a series on pretty much all sex trafficking victims. Is a 5-part series, and it follows the life of different survivors that have. One of them is a familial trafficking survivor. Another one was trafficked in her college campus. Another one was labor trafficked and sex trafficked. They were selling her for commercial sex, but at the same time forcing her to work at their strip club. And right now we are, it's just literally right now, we are actually working on a new series with victims, with survivors of labor trafficking, telling their stories, how they fell into it. A lot of them, you know, it started in their home country through a fake job agency. And when they got to the United States, they noticed that it was not what was being advertised. So yeah, for labor trafficking, we go over how people take advantage of the work visa programs here. That they, you know, people come here on legal work visas, and then a trafficker will exploit that and then threaten them with deportation, threaten them with arrest when their visas are, you know, expired. So yes, we do definitely go into detail, and I look forward to those labor trafficking videos because it's going to do a very good job also at explaining how they.
Yeah. I think that's great too. And talking about labor trafficking of children as well, you know, there's so many, again, just host of myths and misconceptions about that. Somebody asked about what we can do for immigrant children who are trafficked, and that is a big question. And there are a lot of things that we could do. I mean, if you know of individuals, it depends on your area. If you are connected, can you connect up with someone who does immigration law, first of all, and knows about the issue of human trafficking? If you want to get in touch with us, we will have I'll put my email in there. We can talk about that depending on where you are in the state of Florida. There are resources. If you're outside the state, Diego, is there some place that you would think that if somebody's working with immigrant children who are being victimized, like if where should they start? You know, should they call you? Should they call? I mean, to me, my first reaction as an attorney is always to try to figure out, no, well, first of all, are they safe? Can we provide safety? And of course, somebody said, contact DCF. If you're in Florida, a child who is trafficked is absolutely a child who you need to call DCF about, labor or sex trafficked, immigrants or non-immigrants. Yes, call child protection for sure. Thank you very much, Wanda. The obvious eludes me. So yeah, DCF, 896 abuse is the number here in Florida. So why don't we don't want to leave that with that. So thank you. Any other questions here? Yes. So, all right. So yeah, we have some discussion going on about the film Sextortion. Yes. Very, very important information is in there. Just want to make sure that that everybody watches it. Who does watch it, you know, is one of those, is informed about some other things that might be important. So
yeah, one of my colleagues is in that video.
Yep, HSI and Mick and Justice and is quoted in the story perhaps then too. So anyway, it's important for us to stay aware and to know where we can get help and take action, which is really what today was all about. Let's see, I took some notes on here. Wanted to also let you know, speaking of knowing what's going on, next third Friday, that will be in April. It's already up on our website. And Graciela, maybe you could help me too and post the link to that. Marina Anderson from DCF will be talking about human trafficking and substance use issues. So you can register and do that. But I think that's all we have time for, Diego. I think we gotta say happy weekend, happy St. Patrick's Day, and give you a hearty thanks for all of your time and your work that you do all the time. And I grew up in Fort Lauderdale too. We didn't talk about that before, but we have a Broward County connection. So so definitely happy St. Patty's Day, someone saying thank you. And Diego, any other closing thoughts?
I kind of close out always the same, that, hey, I get asked a lot, like, how do we end human trafficking? How do we eradicate this crime? And my response is always education. The best way to combat this crime is to knowing what it is and being able to educate our loved ones, our peers, the people around us, our colleagues, and the kids. So just thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share this message with you all and more about the campaign. And we're here to serve. We're here for y'all. So please feel free to reach out.
Same here with STAC. Robin at surviveandthriveadvocacy.org. I've put up in the chat several times that this, as well as your PowerPoint, will be up on the STAC website within the week or so. So, you can share it with your colleagues and all the people that you just say need to get educated and have more awareness about it.